The room was cold and silent, filled with the sound of metal chains clinking softly. Bright white lights shone down from the ceiling, making the shadows even darker. In the center of the chamber stood Leora, a young alien girl with silver blue skin and glowing violet eyes. Her hands were bound with energy cuffs and her knees trembled as she faced the circle of armored guards surrounding her. The air smelled like iron and fear. High above her, on a raised platform, the alien council commander watched with a blank face. His voice echoed through the hall, deep and cruel. "Leora of the Solari, you have been found guilty of betrayal against your own kind. The sentence is death." Leora's heart raced. She wanted to speak, to scream that she was innocent, but her throat was dry. Her lips moved, but no words came out. The guards tightened their grips on their plasma rifles. A mechanical drone floated closer, projecting the execution countdown in red numbers on the wall. 10, 9, 8. She could hear her heartbeat louder than the machine. Her eyes darted across the hall, looking for mercy, but she found none. The other aliens, the ones she had once called friends, wouldn't even look at her. 7, 6. Her voice finally came back, cracked and weak. "I didn't betray anyone, please. Listen to me." But the commander only raised his hand for silence. His cold eyes didn't blink. "You brought human technology into Solari space. You helped the enemy. You are no longer one of us." 5, 4. Leora's eyes filled with tears. She whispered to herself, "No one's coming." "I'm really alone." The guard stepped closer. The energy rifles charged with a rising hum. Blue light flickered in their barrels. The countdown reached 3, 2. Suddenly, a massive explosion shook the entire chamber. The shock wave threw several guards to the floor. Smoke and dust filled the air. Alarms screamed. The lights flickered and went out, replaced by the red flash of emergency beacons. Everyone froze. Out of the smoke, heavy footsteps echoed, slow and deliberate. A shadow appeared in the doorway, tall and broad-shouldered. The guards raised their rifles, shouting, "Identify yourself." The shadow moved closer, sparks of fire lighting the metal armor he wore. When he stepped into the light, every alien in the room gasped. It was a human. No one had seen a living human on this planet for years. They were the enemy, the monsters of the war. Yet here one stood, bleeding, helmet cracked but standing firm. He held a plasma pistol in one hand and in the other, a shield that hummed with stolen alien energy. "Stop," the human shouted, his voice rough but full of command. "She's innocent. Don't do this." The commander's eyes widened in shock. "A human here?" "Guards, kill him!" Plasma fire filled the air. The human moved fast, ducking behind a fallen metal beam. Sparks flew as energy bolts struck around him. He returned fire, sharp and precise. 2 guards fell before the rest could react. Leora watched in disbelief. Why would a human risk his life for her? The smoke thickened. The human sprinted toward her, sliding on his knees as more shots blazed past. He pressed a small device against her cuffs. Sparks crackled and the cuffs broke apart. "Can you walk?" he asked quickly. Leora's voice shook. "Who are you?" "No time," he said. "We need to move." He grabbed her arm, pulling her to her feet. They ran through the broken gate, chased by shouting guards. Behind them, the commander yelled into his comm, "Seal all exits. Do not let them escape." As they turned into a narrow hallway, more alarms went off. The red lights painted their faces like blood. Leora stumbled but kept running. She could feel the human's grip firm and steady, pulling her forward. They reached a sealed blast door. The human took out a small alien hacking tool from his belt. His fingers moved quickly over the glowing symbols. Leora looked at him, confused and frightened. "Why are you helping me?" "You're a human." "We're enemies." He didn't look up. "Not today." The door finally hissed open. They rushed inside. Behind them, the door slammed shut just as plasma bolts hit it. The noise faded for a moment. Only their breathing filled the air. Leora leaned against the wall, trying to catch her breath. You could have died." The human removed his cracked helmet. His face was covered in sweat and dirt. A deep scar ran down his cheek, but his eyes were calm. Human eyes, brown and tired, but not cruel. He looked at her and said softly, "Name's Ryan. Captain Ryan Cole." Leora blinked. "Ryan, why me?" He took a slow breath. "Because I know what it feels like, being blamed for something you didn't do." For a moment, neither spoke. The world outside still burned, alarms echoing through the halls. Then Ryan checked his pistol, only one charge left. He sighed. They'll find us soon. We move now. Leora nodded weakly. Where will we go?
Anywhere but here, he said, giving her a faint, tired smile.
And maybe, if we survive, I'll tell you why I came. As they stepped into the next corridor, the lights flickered again. A voice echoed from the speakers, the commander's cold command. Attention all units. A human has breached the council dome. He has taken the traitor. Kill them both. Ryan glanced at Leora. Guess that answers your question. The camera would pan up, alarms flashing, smoke rising, and two figures running into the dark tunnels beneath the alien city. The execution chamber behind them still burned, but for the first time, Leora had hope. The tunnels were silent except for the sound of footsteps, one strong, one weak. Ryan led the way, his flashlight cutting through the thick, dusty air. Pipes ran along the walls, dripping with green liquid that smelled like metal and ash. Every few seconds, a loud alarm echoed above them, shaking the ground. The entire city was hunting them now. Leora followed closely, her heart still racing. Her wrists were sore from the broken cuffs. She looked at the human walking in front of her, the one who had just saved her life, and still couldn't understand why. He walked with a limp, blood seeping through the torn armor on his leg. But he didn't slow down. His breathing was heavy but steady. Every move was precise, calm, controlled. It was like he had done this 1,000 times before. Finally, he stopped at a corner and raised his hand for silence. Leora froze. Ahead, the tunnel split into 3 paths. The sound of boots echoed faintly in the distance. Alien soldiers were sweeping the area. Ryan whispered, "They're close." "Stay low." He crouched, pulling out a small silver device from his belt. It projected a blue hologram of the tunnel network. Leora leaned closer, fascinated. The device showed blinking red dots. The soldiers. They were everywhere. "How did you get that?" she whispered. He gave a short, dry laugh. "Let's just say, your people aren't very good at locking their tech." Even in the dim light, she could see a hint of a smile on his face. Small, tired, but real. Something about it made her chest feel strange. The sound of voices grew louder. Ryan grabbed her wrist and pulled her down behind a pile of broken pipes. 2 soldiers passed above, scanning with their rifles. Leora held her breath as one of the flashlights stopped near her face. Ryan moved without sound, pulling her even closer until her head rested against his chest. His heartbeat was strong, steady, human. For a second, time stopped. The soldiers moved on. When the echo of their boots faded, Ryan whispered, "We move through the maintenance shaft. It's narrow, but it leads to the surface." Leora nodded. She tried to sound calm, but her voice trembled. "Why are you doing this?" He glanced at her. "Because you're not what they say you are." "How do you know that?" "You don't even know me." He paused, looking at her through the dim blue light. "You looked afraid to die." "Not guilty." "There's a difference." Leora couldn't speak for a moment. No one had ever said that to her. Not even her own people. They crawled through a narrow metal shaft, the sound of their movement echoing softly. The tunnel led them to a grated opening above a ruined industrial district. Smoke and fire filled the skyline. Massive alien ships hovered far above, scanning with beams of blue light. Ryan pushed the grate open and climbed out first. He reached down and offered his hand. "Come on." Leora hesitated. Her people had always warned her about humans. They were violent, selfish, and cruel. Yet this one had risked his life for her, without asking anything in return. She took his hand. The air outside was thick with dust and rain. Distant thunder rolled across the city. The streets were empty, destroyed from years of war. Neon signs flickered in alien script as wind howled through the ruins. Ryan led her into an abandoned transport garage. He closed the metal door behind them and collapsed against the wall, groaning softly. Leora knelt beside him. "You're hurt." "It's just a scratch," he said, trying to smile, but the blood on his leg told another story. He pulled a small med kit from his armor and handed it to her. "You know how to use this?" She looked at it curiously. "Human technology?" "Same principle," he said. "Just less shiny." She pressed the injector against his wound. He winced as blue foam sealed the bleeding. For a moment, they both sat in silence, the rain tapping gently against the metal roof. Finally, Leora asked, "Who are you? Really?" He looked up at her, his eyes reflecting the dim light. "Ryan Cole, captain of the UNS Helios, or what's left of it. What happened?" He looked away. It doesn't matter. My crew's gone. I'm all that's left. Something in his tone made her chest ache. There was pain there, deep, heavy, hidden behind his calm voice. She wanted to ask more, but before she could, an explosion thundered outside. The building shook. Ryan jumped up, limping to the window. A massive alien hovercraft was scanning the streets nearby. Searchlights swept across the rooftops. They're closing in, he muttered. We need to move again. Leora stood. They won't stop until we're both dead, he smirked faintly. Then let's give them a reason to keep trying. He threw a small device out the window, a flare beacon. It burst into blue fire, flying high into the clouds. The hovercraft turned toward the light and fired. The explosion lit up the entire block. In the chaos, Ryan pulled Leora toward the back exit. They ran through smoke and fire, their silhouettes flashing in the red light of destruction. The sound of falling metal echoed behind them. Ryan's shield flickered weakly, his energy almost gone. Where are we going? Leora shouted over the noise. To your freedom, he yelled back, and my redemption. They reached the edge of a broken bridge overlooking the lower city. Below was a sea of glowing lights, patrol drones moving like fireflies. There was no easy way down. Ryan looked at her, breathing hard. You trust me? She hesitated for only a second. Then she nodded. Yes, he grabbed her hand. Then jump. Together they leapt from the bridge as the city above burned in blue fire. The screen would fade to black, and the last sound would be Leora's breathless whisper. Who are you, really, human? The wind screamed as Ryan and Leora plunged through the smoke. They fell through burning air, their bodies surrounded by pieces of shattered glass and firelight. The city stretched below them like a dying machine, glowing towers, red sirens, and chaos everywhere. Ryan twisted mid-air, pulling Leora close. His shield flickered around them, sparks flying as they crashed through a lower platform roof and hit the ground hard. The shield shattered with a hiss. Leora gasped for air. Are we alive? Ryan coughed, rolling to his feet. Barely. Above them, explosions thundered. The hovercraft circled like vultures, scanning the ruins with beams of blue light. He pulled her behind a broken transport vehicle. The air was thick with dust and the smell of burning fuel. Don't move, he whispered. They're searching. Leora pressed her back against the wall, her hands shaking. The glow in her violet eyes dimmed. They'll find us. They always do. Ryan checked his pistol. One charge left. Not if we move smart. Through a crack in the wreckage, they saw drones gliding between the streets. Every few seconds, one paused, scanning the shadows with a red beam. Leora whispered, Why risk this? You could have left me back there. Ryan didn't answer right away. His eyes stayed fixed on the street, tracking the drone's path. Finally, he said quietly, Because I saw a girl about to die for something she didn't do. I couldn't watch that again. Again? She asked softly. He looked away. I lost my crew once. Same kind of betrayal. Different world. Before she could reply, the nearest drone turned, its red eye blinking rapidly. Ryan grabbed her wrist. Run! They darted through the alley, jumping over debris and twisted cables. Plasma beams ripped through the air behind them, burning walls and sending sparks raining down. The ground shook as another explosion tore through a building ahead. Leora stumbled, covering her face from the heat. Ryan pulled her forward, his grip unbreakable. Keep going. They burst into an open square, or what was left of one. The ground was cracked and giant screens flickered with distorted propaganda. The face of the alien commander appeared, shouting through the static. Attention all citizens. The human is dangerous. Execute on sight. The traitor must die, Ryan muttered under his breath. He really liked speeches. A troop of soldiers emerged from the far side of the square, weapons raised. Leora froze. Ryan pushed her behind a fallen column. Stay low. He took a deep breath, checked the pistol, and stepped out just enough to fire 2 quick shots. The first missed. The second hit an energy cell on a soldier's belt. The explosion lit up the night like lightning. The shockwave knocked them both back. Leora covered her ears, screaming as the roar of collapsing metal filled the air. Ryan pulled her up again. That's our exit. Through the smoke, he spotted a cargo transport half buried under rubble. Its engine still glowed faintly. He kicked open the side hatch and climbed in, dragging her after him. Inside, the cockpit flickered to life. The glass was cracked and the controls were half melted, but Ryan's eyes lit up with determination. Can you fly this? Leora asked, breathless. Fly? He grinned weakly. No, but I can make it fall in the right direction. The transport roared as the engines sputtered. It lifted a few feet off the ground, then tilted violently. Leora grabbed the seat. We're going to crash. Probably, Ryan said. Hold on. The ship tore through the ruins, smashing through walls and scattering debris. Drones fired after them, their lasers burning through the smoke. Ryan jerked the controls, spinning the ship through a narrow gap between two collapsing towers. Come on, he muttered. An alarm blared. Engine failure. The ship plunged downward, flames trailing behind. Leora screamed as they crashed through the lower city levels, metal twisting, glass shattering, until finally, everything went black. When Leora opened her eyes, everything was quiet. Dust floated in the air like snow. She could smell burned metal and blood. The ship lay half buried in the mud, smoke rising from its engines. Ryan? She whispered. No answer. She crawled through the wreckage, her body aching. Ryan? Then she saw him, half under a broken beam, barely moving. His armor was cracked, blood running down his face. She pushed the metal aside with all her strength. Stay with me, human, please. He groaned softly, eyes opening. Still alive. Her voice broke. You should not have saved me. They'll kill you for this. He gave a faint smile. Wouldn't be the first time someone tried. She stared at him, confused. Why do you always joke? Even now? Because if I stop, he said slowly, I'll remember everything I've lost. For a moment, silence. Only the sound of distant thunder above the city. Then the ground rumbled again. Alien patrols closing in. Red searchlights cut through the dust. Leora looked around desperately. They're coming. Ryan forced himself up, limping to the console. There's a maintenance hatch under us. Leads to the outer wastes. How do you know that? I read the blueprints, he said, tapping a control panel. You think I walked into this mess blind? He opened the hatch with a hiss. A gust of cold wind blew through. Go, Leora shook her head. I'm not leaving you. He looked at her, eyes steady. I didn't come this far for you to die next to me. Now move. She hesitated, then helped him down the hatch. Together they climbed into the darkness beneath the wreck, crawling through tunnels that led out into the storm. Behind them, the wreckage exploded, a giant ball of fire lighting up the wasteland sky. They kept walking through the rain, both limping, both silent. Finally, Leora spoke, her voice barely a whisper. What happens now? Ryan looked at the endless wasteland ahead, lightning flashing across the black clouds. Now, he said, we disappear. The camera would slowly pan upward, showing two tiny figures walking away from the burning city, disappearing into the storm as the distant voice of the alien commander echoes through the wind. Find them, no matter where they run. The storm never ended. It howled across the wasteland like a wounded beast carrying ash, sand, and the smell of burned cities. The sky was a dark ocean of clouds, heavy and endless. No sun, no stars, just a dim silver glow that refused to die completely. Ryan and Leora walked through the storm, step by step, wrapped in torn fabric that barely kept out the cold. The wind tore at them, but neither spoke. Their boots crunched over black stones and twisted metal bones, the ruins of ships long forgotten. Hours passed. The sound of thunder became their heartbeat. Finally, Ryan stumbled. He caught himself on a jagged rock, breathing hard. His armor was cracked, his leg wound worse than he admitted. Blood soaked the cloth around it. Leora turned quickly. You're bleeding again. I've had worse, he muttered, but his voice was weak. She grabbed his arm, forcing him to stop. Her silver blue skin shimmered faintly under the lightning. You can't walk like this. You'll die. He looked at her, tired eyes meeting hers. You care now? She frowned. I cared before. You just didn't notice. The wind screamed louder, cutting through their words. Leora pulled him toward a rocky ridge. Beneath it, half buried in ash, was the entrance to what looked like an old bunker, a relic from the war. She touched the door. The alien symbols glowed faintly. It's still active, Ryan nodded. Open it. She placed her palm against the scanner. For a moment, nothing happened. Then the door hissed open, releasing a gust of stale, cold air. Inside was darkness. But darkness was better than death. They entered slowly. The lights flickered to life one by one, soft, white, and ancient. The bunker walls were lined with strange machines and broken crates. Dust floated like ghosts in the air. Leora helped Ryan sit on a metal bench. He winced as he lowered himself. "Guess we found a vacation spot," he said with a faint smirk. She shook her head. "Humans joke at the edge of death." "Strange creatures." Ryan looked up at her. "Helps me forget how bad it hurts." She moved quietly around the room, searching through the crates. Inside one she found sealed containers, alien medical supplies still glowing blue. She brought them to him. "Hold still." He watched her open the injector with steady hands. Her fingers trembled only slightly. "You've done this before?" he asked. "My mother was a healer," she said softly. "Before, everything changed." She pressed the injector to his wound. The blue fluid hissed as it entered his skin. He gritted his teeth but didn't flinch. The bleeding stopped almost instantly. Steam rose from the wound as the healing nanites worked. Leora sat beside him, finally exhaling. The silence stretched between them, gentle but heavy. After a moment, Ryan said quietly, "You saved me." She looked at him, surprised. "You saved me first," he smiled weakly. "Guess we're even." Leora didn't smile back, not yet. She stared at her reflection in the metal wall across them. "They'll never stop hunting us. To them, I'm already dead." "Then stay dead," Ryan said simply. She frowned. "What do you mean?" "Let them believe it," he said. "Disappear. Start over. Live free." "That's what I'd do." Leora turned to him. "And you?" He leaned his head back, staring at the flickering light above. "Me, I don't know. I was supposed to die a long time ago. Maybe I just forgot to." The room fell silent again. Outside, the wind roared against the bunker walls, but in here there was peace. Fragile, temporary, but real. Leora watched him drift into sleep, his breathing uneven, but steady. She whispered softly, "You risked everything for someone you don't know." "Why?" Ryan didn't answer. He was already lost in dreams. Hours later, Leora woke to a strange noise, faint static from one of the old consoles. She approached it carefully. The screen flickered, showing fragments of data and a broken communication log. Among the static, she saw a human emblem, a faded Earth insignia. She pressed a button. The screen glowed brighter. UNS Helios Mission Log 219. Captain Ryan Cole reporting. Crew compromised. Betrayed from inside. If anyone finds this, humanity is not the enemy. The war isn't what it seems. The recording cut off. Leora stood frozen, her heart pounding. She looked back at Ryan sleeping in the dim light. The scar on his face caught the glow of the screen. Suddenly she understood. He wasn't just a soldier. He was a survivor carrying the weight of something much greater. She whispered, "You didn't come to save me, did you? You came to finish what you started." Ryan stirred but didn't wake. Leora turned off the screen and sat beside him again, wrapping a blanket around his shoulders. For the first time she smiled, and small, fragile, but real. "Sleep, human," she whispered. "Tomorrow we find the truth." Outside, the storm began to calm. The first light, faint and silver, broke through the clouds. For the first time in many days, there was a hint of dawn, and deep beneath the dead world, two souls, one human, one alien, had began to trust each other. The scene would fade slowly, with a soft hum of the bunker's machines and a quiet heartbeat in the background. Then, in the distance, a red signal light flickered alive, unseen by them both, sending their location into the dark sky. The storm had passed, but the world outside still looked broken. A dull red sky hung low over the horizon, painting everything in the color of blood and dust. Leora stood at the entrance of the bunker, staring at the wasteland in silence. The wind was quiet now, heavy, slow, like it was holding its breath. Behind her, Ryan worked on a small metal console he had scavenged from the bunker's ruins. Wires and screens surrounded him, glowing faintly in the dark. The steady sound of tools clicking was the only thing breaking the silence. "You keep fixing machines that don't want to live," she said softly, turning toward him. Ryan didn't look up. "That's what humans do. We fix things that are already broken." She stepped closer, her violet eyes glimmering faintly in the dim light. "Even people?" He paused for a second, then smiled sadly. "Especially people." He pressed a button and the screen flickered to life. Lines of alien code scrolled rapidly across it. "This was a military relay," he said. If we can reach one of the orbit satellites, maybe we can find out how big the hunt is. Leora frowned. You mean send a message? He shook his head. No, just listen. The console beeped, a faint signal caught between static and silence. Ryan adjusted the frequency. The voice that came through was cold, familiar, and sharp as glass. To all Solari command units, the traitor Leora and the human are alive. Priority target. Kill on sight! Her brother Commander Kale now leads the recovery. Leora froze. The name hit her like a knife. Your brother? Ryan asked quietly. She nodded slowly, her voice trembling. He betrayed me. He told them I was working with humans. But I wasn't, I was trying to stop the war. Ryan's eyes softened. He sold you out. She turned away, tears glowing faintly against her skin. He wanted power. I was next in line for the council seat. He took everything. The signal continued, but the words blurred into static. Ryan turned it off. For a moment, only silence filled the room again, thick, heavy, almost alive. Finally, Ryan said, If we stay here, they'll find us. He'll find you. I know, she whispered. He stood up, limping slightly, grabbing his gear. Then we move. Before they move in. But before they could leave, the console beeped again. One last burst of signal. A video feed appeared on the screen. Leora's eyes widened. It was her brother. Kale's face appeared, calm and perfect in his military uniform. His golden eyes gleamed with something cold and hollow. My dear sister, he said, voice echoing through the bunker. You've caused enough chaos. Come home and I'll make your end painless. Resist, and I'll burn every world that shelters you. Ryan clenched his fists. Charming guy. Kale's image leaned closer, his smile thin and cruel. And the human? Tell him his death will be broadcast live across the galaxy. Let them see how weak the saviors of Earth truly are. The screen cut to black. Leora's breath caught in her throat. She turned away, shaking. He's going to destroy everything. Just to find me. Ryan stared at the screen, his jaw tight. Then we don't hide anymore. She looked at him confused. What? He pointed at the comm system. If he wants the galaxy to watch, then let them. Let them see the truth. You can't, she said quickly. They'll track the signal. They'll track it anyway, he replied. But this time they'll see who's really the monster. Hours later, the bunker glowed with blue light. Ryan worked fast, linking wires, rebuilding the ancient relay into something new. Leora stood beside him, her hands trembling slightly as she helped align the signal dish through the cracks in the bunker's ceiling. What if it fails? She asked. Ryan smiled faintly. Then we die trying. When the system finally came online, a pulse of light shot upward, straight through the red clouds. Across the network of satellites still orbiting the dead planet, a feed activated automatically. Millions of alien citizens, soldiers, and even human outposts caught the transmission. The screen showed Leora, standing in front of the broken console, her face calm, her voice clear. This is Leora of the Solari. The war you see is built on lies. Humans did not start this. My people did, out of fear. Fear of what they didn't understand. The truth was hidden. I was silenced. But not anymore. Ryan stepped into frame beside her, battered, bleeding, but strong. You don't have to fight anymore, he said simply. You just have to choose what's right. For a moment, the galaxy held its breath. Then the signal cut. Not from failure, but interference. Kale's ships had found them. The bunker walls began to tremble as plasma blasts struck outside. Dust rained from the ceiling. The ground cracked beneath them. Ryan grabbed his rifle. They're here. Leora's voice shook. You can't fight all of them. He looked at her, eyes calm and steady. Didn't say I would win. She reached out and grabbed his hand. Ryan, don't. He squeezed her hand once, firm and gentle. If I fall, you run. You live. The next explosion shattered the doorway. Light poured in, bright, blinding, and full of death. Ryan stepped forward, weapon ready. Leora's eyes filled with tears. You're not just human, she whispered. You're something more. He turned his head slightly, a faint smile on his blood-streaked face. Yeah, he said softly. Stubborn. The camera would pull back, smoke and fire consuming the bunker, Kale's army descending from the sky, and the faint echo of Ryan's defiant voice cutting through the chaos. Then, in the static of the destroyed console, the transmission replayed, Leora's words looping again and again across the galaxy. Humans did not start this. We did. And for the first time in centuries, the people began to question the war. The ground trembled like a living thing. Dust and smoke filled the air, swallowing sound, light, and hope. The bunker that had once kept them safe was now breaking apart piece by piece under the firestorm of Kale's army. Ryan crouched behind a collapsed wall, breathing hard. His armor was half destroyed, one side glowing red from the heat. Every breath burned. Through the smoke, he could see the silhouettes of soldiers, dozens of them closing in, rifles raised. He checked his weapon. 2 shots left. Across the room, Leora stood in front of the fallen console. Her violet eyes glowed brighter than ever, reflecting the chaos outside. Her voice trembled. They're everywhere. There's no way out. Ryan glanced at her, wiping blood from his face. There's always a way. He forced himself up and moved toward the broken window, looking out at the crimson horizon. Dozens of dropships were landing in the distance, their engines screaming. He could see Kale's insignia painted across the hulls, black sun over golden steel. Leora whispered, "He's here." Ryan nodded slowly. "Then it ends here too." She turned to him, desperate. "You can't fight him. You'll die." He smiled faintly. "Maybe, but if I don't, you die." Outside, the wind roared as Kale's army marched across the wasteland. From his command ship above, Kale watched the destruction through a holographic screen. His face was calm, cold, flawless, the face of a man who thought he'd already won. "Send in the purge units," he said. "Leave nothing standing." Inside the bunker, Ryan tightened his gloves and looked at Leora. "You said once you were trying to stop the war," he said quietly. "Now's your chance." She frowned. "How?" He tapped the broken console. "That broadcast we sent, and it's still echoing in the network. We just need to boost it one more time. The truth has to survive, even if we don't." Her eyes widened. "You're going to hold them off, aren't you?" He gave her a small grin. "I've been holding off death for years. One more round won't hurt." "Ryan," he cut her off gently. "Leora, when this starts, don't look back." The first explosion hit. The entire structure shook. The wall behind them blew open, flooding the room with fire and light. Soldiers stormed in, shouting an alien tongue. Ryan moved like a shadow, firing quick, precise bursts. The first 2 fell instantly. The rest returned fire, their plasma bolts tearing through the air. The smell of burning metal filled the room. Ryan ducked behind cover, tossing a smoke grenade that turned the air into a thick gray storm. He ran forward, striking one soldier down with the butt of his rifle, grabbing another's weapon midair and firing point blank. Each hit sent pain through his body. His muscles screamed, but he kept moving. He wasn't fighting to win. He was fighting to buy time. Leora's hands shook as she worked at the console. Sparks flew. Circuits burned. Her voice cracked, whispering the code under her breath. "Come on. Please work." The lights flickered, and then the transmission reactivated. Across dozens of colonies, the message went live again. The truth, her voice, Ryan's words, echoed across the galaxy once more. But the cost was coming fast. The soldiers broke through. One fired, and the shot grazed Ryan's shoulder. He fell hard, hitting the floor. Leora screamed, running toward him, but more soldiers flooded in, surrounding them. Then the air changed. Leora's eyes glowed so bright the entire room turned violet. The energy around her pulsed, shaking the walls. The soldiers froze. Their weapons vibrated. Even Ryan stared, half in awe, half in fear. "Leora," he whispered. She raised her hand, tears running down her face. "They'll never stop unless I make them." The air split open with a sound like thunder. Waves of pure light exploded outward, tearing through armor, metal, and flame. The soldiers were thrown back like leaves in a storm. Outside, Kale's ships tilted as their systems shorted, struck by the energy pulse. Ryan shielded his eyes. "Stop, you'll kill yourself!" But she didn't stop. She stood in the center of the storm, glowing brighter and brighter, her voice breaking into a cry that sounded both human and alien, grief and fury, power and pain. Kale watched from above, eyes wide. His ship's controls flickered. "Impossible," he whispered. When the light finally faded, everything was silent. The army was gone, scattered, broken, or retreating. The storm had stopped. The sky was clear for the first time in years. Leora fell to her knees, breathing hard. The glow in her eyes dimmed to nothing. Ryan crawled to her side. "Hey," You still with me? She looked at him weakly, a faint smile trembling on her lips. You always say that. He laughed once, coughing through the blood. Well, it works. He looked around. The battlefield silent, no soldiers left standing. Then his eyes caught the sky, Kyle's ship burning as it crashed into the mountains. It's over, he said softly. Leora shook her head. Not yet. He'll survive. They always do. Ryan squeezed her hand. Then we'll finish it, together. She looked at him, tears falling silently. You'll die if you keep fighting. He smiled faintly. Then I'll die doing something that matters. She touched his cheek gently. You already did. The camera would slowly rise above them, the ruins glowing under the pale dawn light, smoke curling into the open sky. In the distance, the broken communication towers blinked one last time, the final echo of their message still traveling through space. Humans did not start this, we did. But together, we can end it. As the scene faded, Ryan's voice, calm, tired, human, would echo softly. If this is the last stand, let it mean something, and the light faded to black. The sky was no longer red. It was pale, soft silver clouds drifting across a quiet dawn. The air smelled of rain and ash, but the fire was gone. For the first time in years, the world was still. Leora walked slowly through the ruins. The wind brushed her hair as she passed broken metal and fallen towers. The silence was strange and almost sacred. Every step echoed like memory. Behind her, the battlefield stretched for miles, black scars against a waking sky. The last war had ended here, on this forgotten planet. She stopped beside a small ridge where the ground had split open during the blast. And there he was. Ryan lay where the light had faded, armor cracked, hand still gripping the broken rifle. His face was calm, eyes closed, like someone finally resting after a long journey. The morning light touched his face gently, as if the universe itself was saying goodbye. Leora knelt beside him. Her fingers trembled as she brushed the dust from his cheek. You did it, she whispered. You really did it. For a long time, she said nothing. The wind carried the faint hum of faraway engines, rescue ships drawn by the signal. Somewhere life was returning. She placed a small device on his chest, a Solari memory crystal. Its glow spread softly, recording his face, his final piece. You changed everything, she said quietly. For both our worlds, hours passed. The sun broke through the clouds, lighting the broken landscape. A human scout ship descended from orbit, landing near the ridge. Soldiers stepped out, not with weapons raised, but with hands open. Their commander, a woman in a white suit, approached slowly. Are you Leora? She asked. Leora turned, her silver blue skin reflecting the sunlight. Yes. The commander's eyes softened when she saw the body beside her. And him? Leora's voice was soft but proud. Captain Ryan Cole, he ended the war. The woman nodded silently, kneeling beside him. Then humanity owes him everything. Leora looked at the horizon. Not just humanity. My people too. The commander stood. We picked up your transmission. Every colony, every fleet, they saw it. The truth spread faster than Kale's lies could cover it. Kale? Leora asked. Dead, the commander said simply. His ship didn't survive the crash. The war councils are already talking about peace. Leora closed her eyes. Relief washed over her like gentle rain. Peace, she whispered, almost not believing it. That night, a single pyre burned atop the ridge. The flames rose bright against the darkening sky. Human and Solari soldiers stood together for the first time, watching in silence. Leora stood apart from them, her eyes fixed on the fire. She held Ryan's dog tags in her hand on cold metal, simple, human. She didn't cry this time. She just whispered softly, You wanted the world to see the truth. Now they will. The fire's reflection shimmered in her eyes. She thought of his smile, his stubborn courage, the way he had always joked even when the world was ending. He had been flawed, reckless, human, and yet, somehow, exactly what her people needed to see. When the flames finally dimmed, Leora turned away from the ridge and walked toward the horizon, where the first human ships were setting up lights along the plains. The soft glow stretched far into the distance, small but steady like a promise. Weeks later, the world had changed. Human and Solari engineers worked side by side, rebuilding the cities. The broken towers were no longer symbols of war, but foundations for peace. And at the center of the new city, in the heart of the plaza, stood a tall statue, a human and an alien back to back, looking at the stars. At the base of the statue were words written in both languages. He fought not to conquer, but to protect what was right. And she reminded a galaxy that truth is stronger than fear. Leora stood there quietly, the wind brushing her cloak. She looked up at the statue, at the metal version of Ryan's steady eyes and tired smile. She whispered, "You'd hate this." Too serious, but she smiled. Behind her, a group of children played, both human and Solari, laughing together without fear. One little girl ran up, holding a glowing flower. "Miss Leora, look!" It bloomed. Leora knelt down, taking the flower gently. "That means the world's healing," she said softly. The child smiled. "Did the human make it bloom?" Leora looked at the horizon, where the morning star rose, bright and golden. "Yes," she said with a smile. "In a way, he did." That night, when the city lights flickered on, Leora climbed to the highest tower. From there, she could see the stars, real stars shining again through a clear sky. She pressed the memory crystal in her palm. It projected Ryan's voice, faint and cracked, recorded long before the end. "If someone finds this, tell them we weren't fighting for victory. We were fighting for each other." She smiled through her tears. "They'll remember, Ryan, I promise." As she watched the stars, a small ship rose from the surface, a memorial drone carrying his ashes beyond the atmosphere. It climbed higher and higher, a single point of light cutting through the dark. The humans would call it Cole's star. The Solari called it the human flame. Both names meant the same thing, hope. The camera would slowly fade out, the sky filled with soft blue light, the statue standing strong beneath it and Leora's quiet voice echoing through the stars. He was human, and somehow, that was enough. Then, as the last note of the music faded, one final line would appear on screen. "In every dark world, there will always be a human who brings the light."